gentlemen, thank you for attending today's webinar brought to you by ChampionsWay. Just a quick note here, this is actually the biggest webinar in ChampionsWay history. We've had an overwhelming amount of registrants, and we actually had to increase our webinar capacity just to handle this webinar. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce today's speaker. That's Master Farid Dordar. Master Dordar is a world champion kickboxer who's been involved in martial arts for over 30 years. He is currently running a $1 million school and is the CEO and founder of ChampionsWay. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I proudly present Master Farid Dordar.
Hello and welcome. I hope this session is going to help everyone to get an idea of how easy it is really to run a martial arts school successfully. Imagine getting an owner of a martial arts school currently with 300 students, close down his school, moving to another city, and starting a new location. What do you think would happen? Probably in half of the time he had built his original school to 300 number of students, he can build the new school in half of the time and reach the same number of students with the same revenue. And what does that tell us? It tells us that it's all about learning. It's about knowing. It's about doing the right thing in your business. It's about continuously learning the new things. Thank you for being in my webinar. I'm going to share my ideas with you today. But before I start, I'd like to ask all of you a simple question. Raise your hand if you're making enough money to pay the bills. So I'm going to give you a moment here. All right. These numbers are good. That's great. The key takeaway today is going to be how to run your school successfully and what is it you need to do. In my opinion, you need to be a good martial artist. You have to be a very good teacher. You have to be a good promoter, and obviously understand the importance of business systems. These are the things that I'm going to cover in this session. I'm going to give everyone a chance to ask questions at the end. So let's get started. So what are the makings of a good martial artist? You know, the first most important thing, I think, is, lead by example. You have to be a good role model. I am against, personally, the school owners who, go out with their students and parties and smoke and drink, and I'm completely against that. So I think when you are in public, which that is the job of a martial arts instructor, is you have to also watch the way you behave and make sure that you're an important person in your community. People look up to you, especially kids. They want to be like you. When you stand in front of that class and teach, people want to copy you. And they don't want to just copy how you do front kick, but they also want to copy how you are, how you talk, how you interact with other people. So being a role model is very important, and I think people who have done a great job in their school, if you watch them, you'll notice that they're all great role models for their students, and their students talk highly about them. So I think that was the first point that I wanted to make sure that I cover here. And the second thing is, how do you become a great martial artist? Is by being in it, by training. And if you start getting fat and stop training yourself, and not being really in your best shape, what kind of role model can you be to your student? I'm not saying that if you have gained weight, you can never lose it, and you can't teach martial arts. That's not what I'm saying. I think we all go through different stages of our lives, through the stressful time of our business, and we might not be at our peak at all times, and that's okay. But in order for you to be a great martial artist, you must train at least 3 times a week. Are you doing that? As a good martial artist, whether you are into MMA or kickboxing or traditional karate or simply being great at doing kata, you have to have at least one kind of expertise. What is your technique that people can see and say, wow? What is it that you're really good at? What is it that you can show off to your students when needed? As a good martial artist, you stand in front of the class, you're trying to impress everyone, you're trying to tell people, I'm going to help you to become a black belt in martial arts. And you're trying to tell people, be with me for another 4 years so I can take you through this journey. But while you're not yourself good at any of the things you're teaching, that would not work. If I'm a great math teacher, I have to be able to at least show them what I can do. If I want to be asking them to be a good martial artist, I need to be able at least to show some techniques myself. So if you're not in your best shape, if you don't have any technique to show off, make sure at least you have one student that can do that for you in each class. It's very important. Personally, myself, my favorite technique is jump spinning hook kick. And I understand that I have to change slowly the techniques that I'm teaching, because as I'm getting older, I need to develop other skill set that I can also show off. So, pick what you're good at. Whether it's your speed, your power, it's your front kick, it's the way you can hold your foot up, it's the way you do back work, it's the way you do your no fear drop, what we call on the mat, and rolling. Show off some technique and be really good at it. I think it's very important as a martial artist, as a martial arts instructor. A lot of martial arts school owners, they get to the business side of running their school, and they forget how to be a student. And it's very important to keep yourself fresh. I know we all go to seminars around the country to learn business. We take webinars about systemizing your school, about growing your school. But it's very important for you to also take seminars that are specifically related to your art. Go out there and learn from other people. Just being part of a group that you can be free as far as learning. It's a great way of refreshing your skill at all times. And if you think you're bored with the style you're teaching, I would suggest you take some other style and go. If you don't want to be known in your town that you're training with some school, go to another town and school, another town martial arts school and train. But I think it's very important for you all to take some kind of martial arts seminars on a regular basis. And the seminars not necessarily has to be style driven. Whether it's an MMA or Kung Fu or Karate, it doesn't matter. You can take seminars on flexibility. You can take seminars on how to improve your fighting skill. I know that a lot of great legends in martial arts do regular seminars in the country. I've taken some of Grand Master Junri, Bill Wallace, and these guys are amazing. I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but these guys have been amazing on bringing new ideas to me as a martial artist, and me being able to take back to my school and teach similar stuff to my students. Never give up the quest for perfection in your own skill. Yes, we always try to teach our students to be the best. Yes, we correct them on a regular basis. well, what are the techniques and what are the things that we work on to perfect our own skill? As you all know, I can get a white belt to do a punch correctly, and then I can get a black belt to do a punch correctly. And immediately you'll see the difference. You will see the difference in perfecting the technique they're actually doing, whether it's a punch or a kick. And that takes years to develop. Grandmaster Junri is a great example of this. No matter what age he has been at, he has been always working on different level of his own skills, whether it's been conditioning or push-ups or kicks. You know, he has taken that for life, and he continuously work on that. I think as a good martial artist, we must always work on our own skill and try to make him better. And again, back to lead by example. You know, working on your own skill in your own school will teach other students to do the same thing. So the second thing that I wanted to cover today was, who are the people who are considered to be good teachers? And why is it important to be a good teacher? You can be a great martial artist, but not necessarily a great teacher. I have brought in the past in my school some world champions, world kickboxing champions, to do a seminar in my school, and I have watched my student learning from them. Some of these guys have been great to transfer the knowledge to the students, and some of them, unfortunately, couldn't even teach the simplest technique. For example, had to throw a front kick. So why is it so important to be a good teacher? If you look at even the academic world, the best country in the world are the best teachers in the world are considered to be from Netherlands. They have, in Netherlands, with 5 million populations, they've got the best education system in the world. And when they study them, they have realized that the reason behind it is because they treat their teachers. First of all, it's very hard to get to their educational system if you're not a great teacher, if you're not well educated. They treat teachers like doctors. They pay them the same way, you know, and they treat them the same way. And it's obvious when you have a good teacher in a class of 20 students, what the students would be. In a martial arts school, it's not really that different. You know, you can be a great martial arts student yourself. You could be very much skilled in your style of martial arts, but then have students who cannot perform. The reason behind it is because maybe you're not educated about anatomy, nutrition, and high performance. You have to know a lot being a good teacher. It goes beyond just being a black belt and you know, teaching only martial arts skills. It really does. You have to help people when they get injured. You have to help people when they want to lose weight or gain more energy. You have to help people because every student of a martial arts school is different. You know, I have students who can do high kicks, but I have students who can not perform high kicks, but they can perform powerful low kicks. You have to be able to differentiate these students with their body type, being able to help them to achieve the best by knowing what is it they can do. In order to do that, you have to be very much educated in all these three sections. And how do you learn? Where do you go learn? There are a lot of information out there. If you look at the personal trainers in your area, we have actually over 2,000 of them here in BC. It's not easy to become a personal trainer. You must go through a whole bunch of courses and you got to read a whole bunch of books about anatomy, nutrition. You know, it's important for us to also know, though maybe there's not a single body in martial arts, for us to be forced to learn this stuff, we need to go on our own and learn the stuff. It's very important. What happens if somebody does too many kicks and they're hurting their knee? How do you stop that? How do you make sure that you substitute kicking with some other training so they can still come back to your classes and continue their training while they're injured? All those things are important, and they're a part of being a great teacher. Energy, energy, energy. I can't talk enough about this subject. The students of martial arts, I had one student. He was 9-year-old, and his mom was training also in the school. And every time his mom would get home, this kid would tell the dad and the mom that, I know where mom has been, and I bet mom has been at her martial arts training class. And the dad would ask, how do you know? And he would say, because every time she takes the class and she comes home, she's got so much positive energy. So he would notice that. He would notice the mom every time, she would take a martial arts class, and coming home, she's not just looking sweaty, doing some other sports. She's got this positive energy with her she brings home. And he knew right away that, she has been at Champions. I think these type of stories probably is happening in your school today. We do not only teach martial arts as martial arts instructors and as martial arts teachers. We also bring a lot of energy to our students. Now, how do you do that yourself? How do you give other people more energy? I understand, if you're teaching 4 or 5 or 6 classes a day, sometimes that could be draining, but it's part of the job. And it's same as you go to a construction site and you put your tool belt on and start working 8 hours a day, which could be a very tough job as well. Teaching martial arts is the same, and it starts with you putting on that uniform and you tying that belt. I remember myself, every time I wanted to go to a class where I would change uniforms and I put my belt, right there on the knot of my belt, I would pause and say, okay, Farid, here you go again. You got to have a lot of energy, throw away all the negative thoughts, throw away all the thoughts about business and money and challenges, and focus on your students. First of all, always walking in a class with a plan. Second of all, what's important mostly is give students energy. And that positive energy always comes from teachers. And it doesn't matter what time of the class it is, whether it's the beginning of the class or the middle of class or the end of the class, you must be always available to do that on every single class. And some other ways of teaching martial arts in a great way, and it's very important, is to break down each class. This is actually a picture of math of my school, and what I like to do is every time I teach a class, I like to break down my classes into 3 sections, and not necessarily beginning, middle, or end, and that sometimes can change, but I'm going to make sure that every student at least gets some form of exercise. Whether they're sweating or they're working out or picking up their heartbeat, I'll make sure I'll do that in every class. The teaching section is about me teaching them something about the curriculum. Progress equals retention. If a student comes to a martial arts lesson and leave the class without learning anything, then how is he going to ever be ready for his next rank? How is he going to feel that he's progressing in the school and to continue their training? So teaching, it becomes important. And what I mean by teaching is make sure at least you are teaching them something or they're getting better at something. So if, for example, you're teaching someone who's been in the school for 3 months and you're teaching them your first form, or you're teaching them some kind of technique, kicking techniques, or if it's basically developing their strength on their shoulders and the upper body power, what you do, you make sure that student needs to do that piece of work, because you know for a fact that most people, they go out of the school, they go out of your class, and they usually do not train on their own. No matter how much we tell them go home and practice, they will not. So your chance is for them to do that right there in your class. So make sure your 45-minute class or an hour class doesn't get wasted. Otherwise, all these people will come to your school twice a week. Then twice a week is not enough for someone to really learn something and grow. So, you know, you have to make sure that the students are actually practicing the techniques you're trying to teach them for their next upgrade. And if they don't learn it, if they don't get good at it, they will not feel good, they will not progress in your school, and simply they will quit. Some other things that a good teacher need to have is, is mastering how to hide repetition. In the world with video games and iPad and iPhone and all these distractions, Facebook, and people don't have patience. They don't want to wait and do something over and over. I remember 20 years ago, taking martial arts was different. If I would take a sword class, I would probably stick with the same technique for over a year, and keep practicing it. And because, we all know you need to develop mastery in an art to be able to feel good about it. And that comes from repetition. But how do you still go through the repetition, but still the students don't feel it? It's very important. And you got to make it fun. You got to switch it around. You got to make sure that, they still go through maybe the 50 and 100 kicks, but right after you can switch it around and play a game. But you must be able to not continuously teach the same thing over and over and over, because that will really get people bored and quit. And how you do that and how much of it is important, because I've seen the other way around too. I've seen the teachers who go out in the classes and they do too much of variety. And so what happens is the student really doesn't learn anything, and so you still have to go through all that and find a balance and be able to make it exciting and for students enjoying the class. So the other part, being a good teacher is don't always focus on the strongest student in the class. Somebody is good at a kick, usually the higher ranks, they stay in front of the class because they're more confident. And the ones who are not really good at skill stay at the end of the class. Make sure to pay attention to the weakest student. In my opinion, to be a good teacher, if you can make your weakest student to shine and get good at what they do, and not necessarily comparable with the best student in the class, but comparable to themselves, you have won. You have become a great teacher. So learning how to focus on all students, especially the weakest students in your class, it helps you really to become a good teacher. Because, once you work with those individuals and try to learn their body type and try to help them on the things they can do, and that will pick up your student spirit, and it helps the school spirit by other students seeing that, and that's very important. And again, part of teaching a class, you all probably know this, remember students by name. If you have less than 50 students, it's very easy. If you have more than 500 students, it becomes difficult, and there are always techniques and things that you can do with software and be able to do that. Whether you're teaching a class or you've got assistant instructors, you've got to practice the student's name, and that's the least you can do, and that's definitely not enough. I hear a lot people talking about, calling your students by their name and making sure you know them by their name and with their face. But that's just the beginning. What's really important is knowing the student by their needs. Why did they join your school in the first place? What was their goal? What are their challenges? When was it the last time that someone was injured? And are they feeling better? Where did you left off last time that you were teaching that student? Was it on his kicking skill? Was it in his exercise? Which part of his training that you left off? Is knowing student by their needs is what's really important. And, you know, the students walk into school, you work with them on something, today is a week later, and you want to follow up and see if he has really actually learned the things you worked with last time. Makes the student feel a lot better when coming to your school, knowing that the instructor actually cares and knows what he has to do with them next. Now, for schools who, you know, reach to 70 number of students or 80 and then they can't grow anymore, they get to 100 students, they can't grow anymore, one of the reasons is not knowing their students' need anymore. You know, it's easy when you have 20 or 30 students, but you have a larger number of students, you have to take notes, not only mental notes, but you have to have a system to actually follow up on the students. And I think it's very important. This is not a picture of my school, but it's a nice photo. And John, great job on this. Every class, students learn at least one new thing. You know, make sure a student feel good when they leave the class. And what I mean by that is that at least teach them one thing. You know, that one thing doesn't necessarily have to be always a technique. I mean, I can teach all the technique of a martial arts probably within 30 days to a student. Then how do I keep them for 4 years? And how do I keep them for 2,000 days if I can teach every technique in 30 days? How do you keep still teaching students something when they come to every single class? If you figured that out, you definitely will grow your number of students. And you know, if you want some tips from me, you know, don't focus only on techniques. You know, teach some kind of philosophy, life lessons, experience of other people, health tips, things that you learn yourself. Always talk about in the class, and sometimes fighting tips that you've just learned by watching a MMA fight or UFC fight. You know, share that with your students. But make sure that the student comes to the class, they do those three things. They exercise, they learn something at least, so you teach them at least one thing, and then they feel good at the end, and you make them feel happy when they leave. So, you know, that's part of that. You're going to make sure that every time you teach a martial arts lesson, you teach something. And then how do you systemize that? Because, you know, you don't want to go to one class at 4 o'clock, teach something, and then remember, oh, okay, what do I teach the next class? What you can do sometimes is for the whole day, focus on teaching the same thing to every class, since every class comes different students. Even if the students share classes and they come to multiple classes, it's still okay if they hear the same thing over and over. So, you know, that would be a good technique to do that. Like today, I'm going to go to the class, and I'm going to talk about, you know, how to get someone, take down someone and put them in a choke position. Right? This is what I'm going to teach today. Today, I'm going to go to every class and teach them about the importance of consistency, being consistent, and consistent training. I'm going to teach them about that, how important that is. Today, I'm going to go to the class and teach every student about how to increase their speed. You know, what are the kind of training skills they would need to get faster at what they do. And so, you know, every time pick something up. Today I'm going to go to the class and talk about the importance of drinking 8 glasses of water. This is what I'm going to do. So whether it's a 4 o'clock class to the little kids, Then it's 5 o'clock class, a little older kids or adults or all kickboxers or all UFC fighter. It doesn't matter, right? So people love to hear tips, life lesson experiences. You know, they want to hear what your philosophy in life is. They want to hear what is it you're going to teach them. That's what they're there for. They're there for not for only working out. If they wanted to do that, they would spend $40 going to a gym and training in the gym. I mean, even though people come for different purposes to a martial arts school, but they're there to learn, and this is what you would need to do in every class. You know, we talked about this many times, and I think that helps in all aspects of life or all type of classes, not necessarily martial arts lessons, is praise and praise and praise. You know, it's very important. I think all of us martial arts instructors, we're really good at that. You know, better than any other industry, and we've seen the result. Martial arts industry being so big in North America, you know, one of the reasons is because we have learned the art of praising, and I call it the 3 touch rules. You know, make sure you call them by their name. Make sure you do a shoulder pad, making them feel good about themselves by encouraging them. You know, like, Johnny, why don't you come over here and do this kick? Or hitting someone on the shoulder and say, Johnny, this technique you just did, it was amazing. Great job. And then you stop the class once in a while and say, well, I'm going to watch Johnny to do his sweep technique. And everybody stops. Everybody watches. Everybody claps and applaud the student. These are great ways to encourage students. You know, you don't have to always say good job, good job, good job, because that won't work after a while. You got to be creative on how to praise students. And make sure you pick things that are true. And, you know, whether a student's focus is great, or whether the technique they perform is great, or whether just showing up to the class on a consistent basis is great. You know, encourage people at what they're really good at, and don't lie about it. And focus on the 3 touch rules at all times in every class. If you have assistant instructors teaching the classes and taking over the classes for you, make sure you teach them the 3 touch rules. You all have to know it. The third section of our session today is being a good promoter. And you know, you are a great martial artist. That probably take you up to 50 students, and not anymore. And you know, then you become a good teacher, and that's great. You know, it keeps the students, and it actually helps the students to refer other students to you. Now, how do you get over 100 students? You know, how do you promote yourself? What kind of person you need to be? It's very important. I think, you know, we all focus so much on other factors of our business that we forget that it starts with us, entrepreneurs. You're not just a martial artist. You're not just a teacher. You're trying to be an entrepreneur. And with that comes being a great promoter. I think it's very important. So, you know, one of the things that is important as a promoter is to believe in your product. What is the product we're selling? We are selling martial arts lessons. Our product is martial arts lessons. And we have to believe in it ourselves. We have to believe that when someone takes martial arts, they become more focused in life. We have to believe that when a child takes martial arts lessons, they become more successful in their school. We believe that martial arts, it's a way of life. And not only kids need to do it, they have to do it on a regular basis. We believe that martial arts is a form of education that no kids should be left behind in taking those lessons, because you go to a regular school and you learn academic lessons, and you come to martial arts schools, you learn how to be confident, and gaining that confidence is not easy, and sometimes more important than going to university. So that's what we believe in, and this is what as a promoter, if you're trying to be a promoter, you got to believe in your own product first. We also believe that, you know, once you do martial arts, you become more coordinated. You know, that helps you with other sports. We believe that when you come and take a martial lesson, you become more of a humble person because martial arts helps you with that. We believe that when you come and take a martial lesson, you release all your stress a lot better than any other sport. Yeah, we believe in martial arts. And you have to practice and know all these beliefs. If you don't believe in your own product, you can never be a good promoter. And that's very important. And that starts with you. It doesn't start with your program director. It doesn't start with you know, somebody who's doing your accounting. It doesn't start with somebody who is teaching the classes for you. It starts with you who own the school. You have to believe in your product. It's very important. And, you know, I said here, for every life problem, there's a martial arts solution. Do you know all of them today by heart? You must know and repeat all these things by heart and knowing them at all times. I am overweight. You see someone in a coffee shop and they talk about being overweight. How do you connect that to martial arts? How does martial arts helps with that? You know, you meet someone in a hair salon and they talk about their children not doing well in school. How do you connect that to martial arts? How does martial arts can help with that? Somebody drinks too much coffee and they can't stop themselves, right? They're not educated in what coffee does to them when they drink too much of it. How does martial arts connect with that? How can you help with that, right? So, you know, there's a whole bunch of things that you need to know when you want to be a good promoter. You know, you got to be able basically find a martial arts solution for every problem, for every challenge, for every fear. Martial arts solves all. And that's the art that you need to be really good at. Part of being a good promoter is not just knowing, is doing. And you know, everywhere you go, when you talk to strangers, you know, you're on your vacation, and you know if you talk to a stranger at the poolside, they'll definitely not join your school, but talk about martial arts. Continuously talk about it every day, right? Knowing how to do that, it's very important. And so, you know, tell them about what you teach and in your school, and how has that helped your previous students, you know, the students who now are in university, the students who are now are champions, the students are students who now are, you know, important people in the community. Talk about that at all times. And if you're in your local area, in your town, always invite people to your school. You know, make no exception. Everybody who you come in touch with for the first time and you get a chance to talk to, always invite them to your school. No exception. To be a good promoter, you also need to know how to write. I think it's important. You know, it's writing is an art. It's not easy. You need to take some lessons, whether online or, you know, taking an actual course. But I think it's important to be able to write. You know, I've seen Ingrid when she writes a letter to a student who hasn't come to the school for a while, and you know, in the kind of response we get from that letter. You know, and it's not the same if that letter is written by a company. You know, it makes a difference. Yeah, it's okay to make mistakes, but keep writing. Try and practice writing. You will get good at it eventually, and if you're already not good at it. At the same time, you know, the world of blogging, and it's all about writing. You know, you want to write about your art. You want to write about your teachers. You want to write about your school. You want to write about the skill sets that you try to teach to your students. You want to talk about how you have helped others to achieve the greatest in your school. You want to write about. You want to write and giving people basically tips. Maybe writing an article for the local newspaper. Learn how to write. You know, and It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay if you don't have the best grammar in the world. I'm sure you can always find a student, a friend, a family member who can always go over your writing and correct things up. And with time comes, you're going to find yourself that, wow, I can now write about what I do. And I think that's very important as a martial arts entrepreneur. When you're promoting your school and you're talking to people in the coffee shops, in the salons, and in different places, it's important that you invite them to your school. Best way to do that is give something of value for free. Come to my school. I'd love to have you as a student in my school for a free month, or free 2 weeks, or even sometimes if somebody is really special, give them free 2 months. It's okay. Promote and promote and promote. If you have 20 students or 30 students in your school and you're not promoting, I don't know what are you doing, right? I mean, it's important. Can you take out a card right now out of your pocket, a VIP card? If you have less than 50 students, if you don't have that VIP cards, I'm not sure if you're doing the right things and how you're going to grow your school. Right, so always be prepared. Have some type of business cards, VIP cards, that has some kind of value that you're giving out free to special people. And then, if you have a staff of few people, make sure you make the same type of cards for them to pass on. You can actually have challenges in your school to see who will pass on the most cards. You can sometimes give that to your student to pass on to their friends. We know for a fact for every successful business out there, whether it's a martial arts school or a software company, it doesn't matter. 50% of your students must come through referral. If people are referring other students to you, that means you're running a good school. That means you're a good martial artist, you're a good teacher, and you're a good promoter. So it's important. Make sure you do that on a regular basis and measure it. Knowing that you're doing the right things and you're getting enough referrals is important, right? If you see your referral system in your perfect mind is showing that you're getting less than 20% of the people in your school is through referral, there's something wrong in your school, right? You have to find a solution for that problem. Your solution will not be solved by necessarily only advertising, right? It would not. Yes, you must advertise, but you have to also fix the problem inside your school. Then that is running great classes, making sure that the students are enjoying the classes, leaving the classes with a lot of energy, and going out there to refer you to their friends. It's very important. The last piece of my presentation today is, understanding the importance of business system. And I think I've talked about this many times. And, this is a big session by itself. So I'm going to quickly cover this. And, it's because you're a good martial artist, a good teacher, and a good promoter, it doesn't mean you are a good businessman. Let's talk about that for a second. So if you know how to do plumbing, it doesn't mean you should start a plumbing business. If you're a mechanic, it doesn't mean you should open up a mechanic shop, right? And if you're a musician, it doesn't mean you have to open a music school. Same as if you got your black belt, it doesn't mean you should open a martial arts school. The same thing. Most important thing in running a business is to be a good business person. I'm not sure why here it says businessman, but it should say business person. And that requires you have the ability to systemize things that you want to do and to grow your business. You have to plan. You have to know the simplest thing. For example, I would say, if you're in a bad location today and you're not getting no walking at all, maybe it's worth it. You stop and find a new location, right? These are important things for you to know in order to succeed. If you've been in a place for 2 years and you've got only 30, 40 students and you get 0 walk-in, maybe it's time for you to change your place, right? It's important. Or if you have 80 students or 100 students and you can't break it. You've been at it for 2-3 years. Maybe it's time to invest in a great system that can help you to get to know your student better. So you can identify, personalize your training for your students. So, all the decisions you make on your daily business is going to make you who you are. It's going to help you to become successful or not. I remember I had like 130 students in my school. I was charging so little, probably I remember it was about $49 a month. And I was competing with like community centers and rec centers, thinking that, that would bring me more students. I was a world champion, so thinking that being a world champion is going to bring me a lot of students. And I was stuck at 140 students for years. I had my school in a place with 1,600 square foot, with no showers, only one washroom for both female and male, tiny office, hardly an office, just a divider basically. Mostly was the big room there for one training room. And when I made my move to my 10,000 square foot location, things changed dramatically. I'm not saying, the reason behind the success of my school from moving from 140 to 200 students was just moving my school, but it was one of them, right? Other reasons was, I learned that, not necessarily cheap prices are good. Charging little doesn't necessarily mean always good. You have to charge a value that it brings results. What I mean by that is if I'm going to charge $49 and I'm not going to pay attention to students because I don't have time, what I should do, I should charge a little more and actually put also more time to teach my students properly. So, charge for the value you're providing, and it's important. And so, so learn the business of martial arts, and learning the business of martial arts is like any other business. Have a plan, set goals, know your location, know your last year's goal. Like, what kind of goal you had for 2011? Do you even remember what those goals were? Did you write them down? Are you looking at them right now? Because we're now in December, and you're trying to set new goals for 2012. And if you don't look at your last year goal, that means you haven't learned anything from it. And you want to do that. You want to make sure where you went wrong, where you did well, so you can improve your system. And now's the time. December, you're going to have more time to do that. Do set goals. So, learn the business of martial arts. It's very important. Part of learning the business of martial arts is the business system, right? I mean, I know a lot of great entrepreneurs, but they're not organized. Either you need somebody who can organize you very well, help you with organization, or you got to really take some courses on that. And what I mean by organization is not necessarily organizing your paperwork, so you're prepared for tax time. That's not what I mean. What I mean by organizing yourself is organizing your thoughts, organizing your goals, knowing where things are so you can go and measure them, right? Making sure that you're a person who do look at your number of leads that you're getting every week, right, and where they are. Being organized is not necessarily just, being organizing in one way. It's being organized in all aspects of the business. It's very important, whether it's financial or it's planning, or it's basically your business plan and your marketing plan. You have to be organized in all aspects. You got to know where things are, where to find things, where you're going to move things forward. It's important. If today you're not getting a student, it's because you don't know how to answer a phone or pick up the phone or call a lead, that's your problem, right? You got to know where those problems are, and it starts by finding the problems and knowing where they are. And getting organized helps you with that, right? And I always give example of the businesses who start prepared, right, and the businesses who are not prepared. People who come and start a restaurant, and they spend $500,000 on a restaurant, and on their opening day, you see 2 people in there because they're not expecting enough business. All of a sudden, they get, they get a lot of people into the restaurant, then they can't handle them, right? Be prepared. If you are, invest in your business and be prepared. Treat martial arts business same as any other business. Don't think of it that, oh, it doesn't require money. You just need mats and mirror. It's not true. It's not true at all. You need a marketing plan. You need money for operation for at least 6 months to 12 months for cash flow. You need to spend money on your system. You need to spend money on promotion. You need to have people in your school to help you. I'm not saying if today you have a business and you don't have money, stop. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying treat it like every other business. You need to invest in your business. You need to invest to get your school to a point that it can pay for itself and bring in profit after 12 months. It's very important. And remembering what's important will not be achievable if you basically, don't organize your thoughts and don't organize your business. Achieve constantly. What I mean by that is that, if you see in January, every January of every year, in our school we bring in about 40 new students. So if 10 years I've been doing the same, this year I got to achieve the same thing, right? Because consistently is important. If December every year is slow, I should do something to pick it up, right? And that something is some kind of promotion I must do to pick up my December slow school. And whatever you do that works, do it every year. Don't forget the next year, right? Be consistent. Do things constantly and be consistent at them. Like, for example, if you see that a landing page on your social media site helps you bring more leads, continuously do that. And if knowing that if you call a lead instead of your program director and has a better result of booking them for a tour, do that yourself. And be consistent. It's important. Don't jump around. Don't do one thing that works and then say, okay, now I'm bored, let me try something new. That's not how business works. A business system needs to work consistently and constantly. And you have to be able to cookie cut things that are successful versus things that fail. And it's important for you to know which ones are what. Prepare to handle growth. Getting up to 50 students, it's easy. Going from 50 to 100 is difficult, right? And the reason behind it is everything we talked about. More students, more names for you to learn, more needs they have that you don't know about, and then you get stuck. So you need to be able to handle growth. If tomorrow you have a Groupon deal that brings in 100 students to your school, can you handle them? Can you actually take them through your introductory lessons? Teach them something, making sure to remind them to come back. Making sure to fire all these emails on a regular basis to them. Make sure when they do come back, you have time to sit down and actually go through your program with them and extend them into your yearly program, right? If you can't, then you're not prepared to handle the growth. It's important. A lot of people forget that. They open a business, they get to a number of students, and they want more students. And when they do get those more students, they don't know how to keep them. Closing the back door is the most important part of running your martial arts school. Systemizing your school is not the most important. Closing your back door is the most important. Remember that. Systemizing your school will only help you how to close your back door, but it's not going to do it for you. And how do you really handle the growth, but still work 8 hours a day? Do you want the more students you get, you go from 8 hours to 9 hours to 10 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours, and 13 hours a day? How are you going to handle that? That's almost impossible. You'll be stressed. You'll be out of shape. You will not be training as much anymore, so you will not have energy anymore. And you'll go to your school for years and see you're at the same number of students over and over and over. Right? So how do you handle the growth? Part of it is automating. Part of it is training your assistant instructors, right? And that is also part of your system. You have to be able to handle the growth in a way that you still work the same amount of hours. I did actually a webinar on how to make $1 million school and systemize your school. So if you want, you can go and watch that again, or make sure you follow me on Twitter. Maybe I can share that with you later on. So it's important to run a business versus killing yourself by time and putting extra hours on a regular basis and see no result, right? And in order to handle a business, same as any other business, you need to go take courses. You need to take management courses. You need to take marketing courses. You need to learn as much as you can about the world of business as much as you have learned about the world of martial arts. It's very important. Managing the 3 Ps, the processes, the products, and the people, right? So managing people, who are the people you got to manage? It's not only the number of students you have, the people who volunteer in your school, the assistant instructors, if you have in your school, how do you grow that? If you have, right now you have 30, 40 students, are you currently thinking about developing another assistant for yourself? Because you definitely need to answer every telephone ring in your school. You have to pick up every single call. You cannot miss any. So you have to develop your people. You have to build assistant instructors, volunteers, or full-time staff to help you. Processes, no matter how much you help people, you need to basically help them with the process of them doing their job. You need to organize their job, tell them exactly how it's done the best way, and ask them to do those jobs. Never allow the people you work with, them to figure out these processes for you. I've seen so many martial arts school owners who, when it comes to their computerizing their school or using social media marketing, or, when it comes to business system, they're just saying, oh yeah, I have somebody who handles that for me. No. You shouldn't have anybody to handle your processes for you. You need to be expert at your processes. And what I mean by processes, all aspects of your running your martial arts schools. For example, I'll give you an example. When a student joins your school, what kind of welcome letter you must send them, and when should you do that? Your process of call 2, call 4, call 6. You need to write that and give it to the people who want to do that. For example, when you do on a call 2, make sure you ask the students how they're enjoying the classes. Make sure to ask them for a referral, bring to your school, and on call 4, repeat the same thing and do this and do that. So work on your process. I'm not going to go into details of every process, but I want you to understand what I mean by processes. Processes are, for example, when you get a web lead, what to do with them, right? What are the steps? Are you going to automate an email through Perfect Mind? Which email are you going to write? Are you going to actually go and read that email yourself, or are you going to allow a student to do that themselves, or a volunteer? Don't do those things. Like, make sure you build the processes, the process from A to Z. And that, what I mean by that is the process of lead management, the process of promotion and marketing, the process of getting a new student in your school, the process of renewing a student into your regular program, how all those things are going to work. You need to figure out those processes. I'm not saying be an expert, and I'm not saying today start and making all of them, because you really don't need to do that. If you're a smaller school, you can start with your, you don't have lots of processes, but you can start organizing them. into pieces, and making sure that they're all documented, that when a new staff member or a volunteer joins your school, somebody who wants to help you understand the process and can do it exactly the way you would do it. And as I said, I don't like when the school owners, when it comes to their technology, they start thinking, oh, I have somebody who handles that. If you don't understand your technology yourself and allow other people to handle it, they do not understand your business. You basically need to hire a partner to do that if you don't want to do that yourself. And I'm not saying be an expert in technology. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying be involved, know how it works, look at it, right? Make sure that you're involved in building that process, because that process, the second piece in the middle there, is one of the most important part of growing a school. Your products. What are the products? The products is your martial arts lessons, is your curriculum. What is it you teach? Do the instructors teach them the same way? When they join a class, if say, for example, one day you're sick and you can't be in a class, can your assistant instructor pick up the curriculum and teach exactly what you teach and go through that? Do everyone come to a class and teach whatever they want? That's not going to help the students grow to the next level. The teachers, the martial arts instructors, they must have all one goal. That is, how do I get this student, Johnny, from white belt to yellow belt? That's all. In this class, which is the third class of the 8th class they're going to come to, in the journey of becoming from white belt to yellow belt, what are the techniques he needs to know at this time? So I'm going to work with him just on that. Systemize your whole curriculum, your whole program, so the instructors can follow on that and teach exactly the same way. Your product is as important as your instructor, is as important as your processes. Don't leave that to other people to design it. I understand most school owners, they go out to the mat and they teach what they feel, but it's not always correct. You don't teach what you feel. You teach what the students need to learn, and that is based on a curriculum system that you have developed in your school, that you have thought about, that you understand, and it will take the student at least one step closer to becoming a black belt, one step closer to feel the progress, whatever rank system you have in your school. So make sure you design that product properly. For example, part of your product development must be, in my opinion, must be progress checks. If you give a rank after 3 months, you want to make sure that you at least give them some type of stripes or progress check at least 3 times within this 3 months. So that is once a month, right? And you want to make sure that you systemize that. So you don't go in a class with 50 students and say, here you go, I give you all a second stripe just because you were in the class. No. You have to individualize your processes. It's important. One of the reasons the schools can't grow over 140 or 150 students or even 100 is the fact that they want to treat everybody exactly the same way. I'm a left-handed. You want to treat me exactly the same as the person who's a right-handed. It will not work. You're trying to show me to stand exactly in the same stance. It's not going to work for me. You got to have a process in place that shows me differently, because I am left-handed. I'm a southpaw, so you got to teach me differently. Now, as well as, if I've been coming, if I'm a green belt in the class that I just joined the class because I just got upgraded to my green belt, you have to treat me different than the green belt who's been in the class for 4 or 5 months. I need to learn different things. I need to be progress checked on different things. And I need to be promoted on different things. So it's important for you to understand that. That's part of knowing your student needs. Remember, it's not just about knowing them by their names, but knowing them by their needs. It's very important. That is part of how you design your product. That is your product being your martial arts lessons in your curriculum. So all these 3 things, manage the 3 Ps, are important. And in all these 3 sections do require a great system to manage. It really does. Closing remarks. Make sure you set a goal for 2012. And remember, I talked about this. Being just a good martial artist will get you to 50 student marker, maybe more. So it's important to be a good martial artist. Becoming a good teacher will probably take you to 100 students, maybe more. So it's important. It's important to be a good martial artist as well as a good teacher. And learning how to become a good promoter will take you to 150 students and no more. Because if you want to achieve more than 150 students, you really need to be also a good business person, right? Otherwise, you know, you will never be able to break the 150 student plateau. So it's almost impossible. You need to know about all aspects of business, technology, systemizing your school, business plan. You have to train yourself and teach yourself a lot. Be a good writer, knowing how to blog, you know, get good at the art of finance. That's very important, you know. Knowing how to read an accounting system is so important. You can put in front of me any accounting statement of every business, and I can, within 10 minutes, I can tell you exactly what their weaknesses and their strengths are. You have to get good at it. You have to know, by looking at your finance, where you're going, how you're managing your money, and is it growing or not. For example, let me help you and give you one tip. What do most schools do if a student comes to your school and pay you $1,500 all at once, one pay, maybe for the whole year? What would you do and how would you handle that $1,500? You have two choices. You can tell the student, no, I will not accept any payments that is in full payment. So I like to get paid only monthly. Or you can accept the $1,500 and put it in your bank, put it in your cash flow bank account, and spend it all immediately. So these are the two choices. And what is the third choice? Can you think of a third choice? And if you're doing this, the third choice, I'm going to tell you right now that you must be really good at your finance. The third choice works like this. You open another business account. You try to get as much money you can from the students. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be monthly. If you can give them 5-10% discount and they can pay that in full, go for it. Only if you're disciplined with your finances. Open a new account, put your $1,500 in that account, and every single month, just go out and take about $100, $120 out of that account. So if you're in the middle of June, which is 6 months past, you've already drawn about $720 from that account. You still have $720 cash left in that bank account. Be very disciplined that way. Make sure you budget everything. Your finances, the money that comes in, the money that goes out, spend them properly. Try to learn a lot about finance, about marketing, about people management, about process management. And if you want to break the 150 students, this is what you need to do. Time for questions, but before I go there, I'd like to thank everyone for joining my session. I will be doing more webinars like this for you, and again, I appreciate your time today. And now I'm ready for questions. And for non-clients, for joining my webinar today, I have arranged a special offer, a very special offer for each one of you to take advantage of our technology and marketing packages only this week. So what I'm going to do is we're going to send you an email. You're going to send an email back that you have received it, and we will send you your special offer. Again, thank you, and now it's time for questions, and I'll be available within the next 10 minutes for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Master Farid. That was amazing. Guys, I hope you all very much so enjoyed that webinar as much as I did. Again, if you have any questions, please start typing them in the chat box, and we'll post them up, and Master Farid will answer those for you.
All right. So, Datis, I'm going to get you to read the first question. Datis, can you hear me? Because
Yes.
I can't hear you. Okay.
Okay. Mark asks, how do you suggest we can help older folks who can't kick so much? By that I mean, how would you vary their training?
Great question. Basically, I will go to my product section, and sorry guys, I'm here. Okay. So basically, I will have a modified curriculum for older people. You know, and everybody who wants to join, maybe I would even create different classes for them. And how I would modify depending on what type of styles of martial arts you teach. If you are into doing a lot of kicks, make sure they do the same kick in a lower, below waist type of things. For example, they can actually perform a spinning hook kick in 2 or 3 steps. Instead of do one spinning on one leg, they can go through a step. Take a step first and do half turn, and then do the second turn and do the spinning hook kick very low. But only things that they can perform, you know, and it's okay when it comes to your testing that you take those things out for those group of people. And we've done that for many people in our school. It's great actually to have some older folks in your school, because what it does is it helps also the young crowd and students see that, you know, martial arts is for everyone. And if they can do it, I can do it. So it's good to have them around and modify your curriculum for them. I hope that answered your question. So next question, Datis.
All right, and someone asked, what was the 3-touch rule again?
The 3-touch rule was making sure that you call them by their names, and make sure you pat them in the back when they do something well, as well as stopping the whole class so everyone looks at that student and paying attention to that student to perform a technique or something that they've been doing, and everybody start encouraging them and applauding for them. So that's the 3-touch rules. And I believe we can send you this webinar recording for everybody who were actually here today live. So hopefully that would help.
All right, the next question is, what would a reasonable goal be for me student count-wise for 2012? Right now, I have 170 students.
If you have right now 170 students, I would need to know also how long you've been at 170 students. If you've been at 170 students for 5 years, I would probably set a goal for you to be at least over 200. But if you've been at 170 students and just in the 6 months time, and before that you were at, say, 120, I would definitely set a goal for 250 for you. And having over 200 students, that means you're running a very good business, a martial arts school.
Great. And the next question, is it good to publish your program tuitions on your website?
I do not think so, and that depends also how much you're charging. But I would encourage you publish your introductory lessons. You know, if you're offering a 30 days program, including uniform, for $89 or $99, definitely, why not? You know, that if people can go to your social site on your shopping cart and purchase that program online, you know, that's great.
Moving on to the next question, could you give rules or scenarios for moving from one location to another?
All right. Making sure when you're selecting your locations, look at, first of all, the size of your school today. You know, if you have over 200-300 students and you're moving your location, you will consider things differently than if you had less than 100 students or less than 50 students. It's always easier when you have less than 50 or 100 students to move. Definitely, I would suggest, if you have a lot of students, to move a very near location. Don't go more than 3 miles away, because then you start losing students that are currently coming to your school. If you have a smaller number of students and you find an amazing location, then it's okay, even if it's 5 or 6 miles away. If you see you've been in a school and you have 50, 60 students for years, and it's not going to change because of your location, just give up now. Move to a better location that you know is going to be busier and is going to bring more results. At the same time, on that note, if you know you're good at marketing and you're getting a lot of leads through your social media and through your marketing effort, then maybe you don't want to pay for a very expensive location that is in a shopping mall, a very prime location, because then you can be on a second floor that is cheaper, or you can be in a basement that is cheaper and still get the students there. But always remember this: no matter what location you select, try to invest in your location. Make your school look nice. It's important. First impression is so important. Don't always think, oh, people don't need a change room or don't need a shower. It's not true. If you want to say I'm running a high-end martial arts school, why not to put a shower in there? Why not to make a good change room there? Why not to make a nice school? If you can spend another 5, 10 grand and make it look nice, it's important.
How do you help students remember mistakes they did before? They're doing them over and over.
Very good question. That comes when you work on being a good teacher, right? Some student make a mistake over and over is because their body can't handle it, because it cannot do anything other than that. What you should do is this: you should go and try to understand them first of all, understand their anatomy, know the body type, right? If I've got a tight hips and you're trying to tell me to perform a kick that I'm not doing well, it's sometimes because I simply can't. What I usually do is I try to take him to extreme on the other way. For example, if somebody is doing a roundhouse kick and they can't kick high, or they're using too much hips to do the kick, I actually ask them not to use hips at all. So once they're performing the kick, if somebody looks at it from outside, they're going to look and say, wow, this is a wrong kick. But I'm actually doing that on purpose to extremely take him the other way around, the other way, so he can balance, his body can balance and find the middle. So that's what basically I would do. I would try, first of all, find the body type. What are the things they can do and they cannot do? I would take it to an extreme in a different way to adjust their body, more like a chiropractor.
Great. I keep 89 to 98 students. I want to break 100 next year. Do you have any tips?
Big question. 89 or 98 students. I don't know. Which one is it? You're probably not using Perfect Mind. I can tell you that right now, because if you don't know you have 89 or 98 students, that means you don't know which one. You have to know by heart at all the times your number of active students, your number of A students, B students, and C students. And then, of course, non-actives. Non-actives are the students who are still paying but not coming. In order to know if you can grow your school, is you need to grow your number of A and B students. And A or B students are the ones who are showing up to your school at least 6 to 7 times a month. These are the numbers you want to look at. Don't look at only on your active number of students, because that sometimes doesn't tell you anything. I might have 100 active students, but 50 of them are non-active, meaning paying but not coming. Or 60 of them are C students, meaning they're coming only 2-3 times a week, right? Growing that school would be hard, because you need to go back in there and focus why these students are C students, right? And try to turn them into become a B students by encouraging them, by helping them, by calling them, setting new goals for them for the new ranks. So it's important to know at all times your number of A students, B students, C students, non-actives, and that is done greatly in Perfect Mind for you, so you can measure, and hopefully if you can send me, I can give you a better answer. But breaking 100 students is not hard, right? It's achievable very easily. It's not tough. as I said at the beginning of the sessions, you bring a guy who's running a 300-student school and tell him, hey, start this new school in completely different city. He will take it to 300 students in half a time he's done in his old school. That means if you know the technique, you can do it as well.
Would it be wise to open a second location if I have 145 students now active with only 1,000 square feet? Should I stay and start a second location?
This is actually a good question. I think a lot of martial schools have the same question on this. Maybe the reason you have 145 students, it's never a good reason to open a second school because your first location is running out of space. It's never a good, is not a good reason, I think. And it's also not a good reason to open a second location because you feel you're more successful if you say I've got 2 locations or I've got 3 locations, because that's not true. I prefer if you have 145 students and go into a larger school because you've got 1,000 square foot, and the rules of thumb, I would say you should have had like about 1,500 square foot for 145 students. So it's getting pretty tight in there, so either expand into the location beside you or just move away very closely, but a better location, and take all your students there. Make sure this time around, don't go to a location that is only 1,500 square foot. Go to a location that is at least over 2,000, 2,500 square foot. That way, it gives you room to expand.
Do you have any tips for handling different age students, like children and adults in the same class?
Again, good question, but why would you have kids and adults in the same class? I know you can't interact with me when I ask you this question, but I definitely prefer to have all the classes separately, as many as you can. The reason sometimes we don't separate the classes because we don't have enough help. So what happens is we always know that if we add additional class, we have to teach more classes ourselves, and that stops us from adding more classes. But I prefer to have as many classes you can in your school if you have the time, and separate age groups, separate ranks. Even for white belts, if you have like over 150, 100, 200 students, separate the white belts that just joined with the ones who've been there 3 months. So you can really work on your curriculum separation and to keep the students. I say the rules of thumb, for every instructor in your class, never have more than 10 students. But if you're running a mom and child, or a dad and a child, and those type of programs, and kids and adult, that's fun. It's great. But they will never grow together. I think it's almost impossible to have them in the same class. And again, depending on the children's ages as well, I hope we're not talking about 4 or 5 years old kids, and we're talking about maybe 10 and 11 or 12, because that is workable if that's the age group you're talking about.
You mentioned a VIP for a free month. What is the basic script or idea to enroll after 1 or 2 trial lessons? Others I've listened to say not to let students finish free month and then attempt to enroll.
Definitely. I think that's so true. I mean, yeah, depend on your VIP. I would probably give a free month. Remember, still today, though martial arts has been so popular, we see all these UFC fights on TV, and we're still hesitant to take lessons ourselves. And as people, we look at the martial arts schools as not a friendly environment, and it's kind of scary to get in, even ask questions. So that's why we prefer to go to your website and be very informative, your site, and be able to see, that I can see myself that I can join your school and I can actually do this. Now, one of the barriers that you can make this easy is to give people a month of free training. 1 or 2 classes is great. You can do that if that works for you, but I definitely suggest at least a month, because then you're telling people, hey, I want you to come and feel free to train and get used to it and see if you like it or not. And then what you do, yes, you've given 1 month free, but you have to pay attention to them from day one when they come to your school. From day one when they come to take the first lesson, take them through exactly the same processes, take them through your introductory lessons. Because you give somebody free month, don't think that you need to break your processes and send them directly to your classes. I think that would be probably wrong, because if you take them through one-on-one training on the first lesson and the second lesson, it's possible you can actually extend them into your full program after the 2 lessons and still give them 1 month free at the end. So basically charging them for 11 months. That would be the best approach. But if you can't and you feel they're hesitant and they still want to try it first, make them feel free to do that. But again, in a week or 2, approach them again before the month actually ends.
Can you give an example of a process that is easy for any instructor to follow curriculum-wise, but also personalizes a class so that people who are interested in fighting and those more interested in fitness both feel attended to in a class?
When it comes to designing curriculum, you need to really put a good thinking into this. This is not an easy question to answer for everyone, but I'm going to try my best. Basically, if you're designing your curriculum, try to go by ages and try to go by your ranks. What are the techniques they're going to learn? And then when it comes to exercise, when it comes to fitness, and when it comes to learning, everybody's going to go through the same thing in your programs. It should not be the difference from one class to another, right? Especially within the same class. If you have different people coming to the same class for different reasons, that will be pretty tough to design a curriculum for, right? Don't try to satisfy everyone. Understand what your product is, and try to target those individuals. Bring in those individuals to your school. If your product is just basically teaching martial arts, traditional karate, don't try to get people so much in there for losing fat or weights, that's not your product. And don't try to find people, try to find people to come to take your product versus bringing people to be satisfied in all angles, because then what you do, you really dissatisfy your other students you've got in your school.
I'm looking to hire a front desk administrator. What would you say is a good starting wage, or should I go to more of a performance-based pay?
Every time you hire a full-time individual in your business, try to treat this individual as an employee, like every other business. And again, that depends. Maybe you don't need a full-time, you need a couple of part-timers. But I do suggest for you to have one person full-time, especially if you're going to have over 100 students. And what kind of wages you start with, depends. I think, you pay for what you get. If you think the service they're giving in front is going to help your students to come more to school, if you want to make sure they're welcoming, if you want to make sure they pick up every call and they know how to answer phone, and they've got some type of sales experience and they can actually sell more equipment in your school, those are all helpful, right? In that case, try to hire somebody a little bit older and who can handle all these tasks and pay them a little bit more. So paying people accordingly, it always helps. Never think that it's too much, because it's going to bring result. But you do have to watch them, and you do have to make sure that you made the right decision. If not, let them go and try to find someone else.
I have a school that has went from 35 students up to 110, and now we've dropped back down to 49. This had been in the last 6 years. What should I focus on to get back to 100 to 125 students?
Why would you go from 110 students to 49? This is my question, Like if I have 110 students and I see my student level are increasing and they still haven't become non-actives, I stop it right there. I wouldn't even wait to get to 49. If you waited so long to get to 49 and find a solution, that's a problem, right? And I'm not sure why you dropped to 49 students. It could be you were in a small town and the factories closed down because of the economy slowed down and all the students left. That's a different. It would require a different answer than if Simply, your instructors were not teaching great classes, but definitely this is a big warning, coming from 110 to 49 and having half the students, is something wrong. You need to find a solution, and I'm sorry that I can't answer that with just this simple question.
What are good ways to encourage student loyalty? For instance, like a bonus plan, encouraging students to be active all year or even longer.
A student's loyalty comes from giving them what they want. Why would a student join your school in the first place? Either they want to, first of all, they want to progress in their ranks, so make sure they are doing that. That will develop loyalty because they're staying there longer time. And second of all, treat them differently. If you always treat your new students better because they're new, then you will never have old students. And the only way you develop loyalty is time. People have been with you for a long time. The longer they are with you, the more loyal they become. And loyalty is always both ways. You treat them better, you give them more opportunities, you teach them special classes, especially if you have black belts for years. You treat them better and they'll stay loyal forever.
All right, and it looks like our last question here. When giving someone a free month, what do you do about equipment? For BJJ, they need a gi. For Muay Thai, they need tie shorts, gloves, and wraps. What would you do for equipment?
I try, when I'm giving a free month of a service, not to give so much equipment, right? Unless you can, divide your VIPs to the people who you know better a little bit. But if you're like going everywhere and giving everybody a free month, maybe a uniform, a cost of a uniform, I think is good. Or, if I'm not sure what you're teaching. If you're teaching Muay Thai only, then there's no uniform. Then definitely a wrap helps, but I think a glove would be better. Because when they put that glove on and they start hitting the bag or target, they feel that they're part of the program. They feel confident that they can do this, and it actually helps them to join the program.
And we actually have one final question here. In your opinion, what should a great martial arts school doing all the right things be charging monthly?
Definitely, depending on your area and the population. Putting all those things to the side, my personal opinion, I think the martial arts schools should minimum charge $150 a month. Thank you very much, everyone. That was my last question for the day. I hope you enjoyed this session, and we'll definitely talk soon again. Thank you.